after many years, like I started working in, I went to the treatment facility. I had actually graduated. I started working there as just a tech. Went to school. I had walked out of treatment after graduating, and I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but I was like, I'm going to be a licensed addictions counselor, and I'm going to open up my own treatment facility. I mean, I think I hear this all the time by like people walking out there, like this is their plan, and I really want to iterate, like it's not a joke. You can absolutely do it. Just go
Mhm.
for it. Use that persistence that you had finding your fix every day towards one good goal, and anything is achievable.
Welcome to the Conscious Solutions Podcast, where we highlight leaders, founders, and practitioners who are shaping the future of healing, recovery, and human transformation. This show is dedicated to the people who help the people, the innovators building clinics, nonprofits, recovery programs, wellness practices, and community-based solutions that create real impact in the world. I'm Brandon Barklay, and over the last 8 years, I've had the privilege of working alongside organizations across the alternative wellness and mental health landscape, from retreat centers and practitioners to nonprofits, recovery programs, and community-driven initiatives. And one thing has become very clear. The people doing the most meaningful work are often the ones with the least support, visibility, and resources. And this podcast is designed to change that by sharing the real stories, lessons, challenges, and breakthroughs from the leaders on the front line of human healing. Thanks for being here, and let's dive into today's conversation. You're watching, or you might be listening, to the Conscious Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Barklay, and today I'm joined by Sarah Opitz, Executive Director and founder of Lotus Recovery, a community-based organization offering trauma-informed, integrative healing services for those on the path of recovery. In this conversation, we explore Sarah's journey, the mission behind Lotus Recovery, and the operational realities of running a healing organization in today's world. For those tuning in for the first time, we are Conscious Solutions, and we help nonprofit organizations, treatment centers, and healing-focused businesses streamline operations, modernize systems, and grow sustainably. If you're looking to simplify your back end or strengthen your operational foundation, stay with us. And if you'd like a free growth consultation, just DM us the word growth. So I want to start by saying, Sarah, thank you so much for being willing to take some time out of your schedule and join us for the conversation today. Welcome to the Conscious Solutions Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Maybe start by just telling us where in the world you are and where you're calling from.
I am from Moorhead, Minnesota, so very west edge between North Dakota and Minnesota. Um, and think the biggest I think the biggest thing that people can think about it here is that we have the Concordia College hockey, so that's what you see a lot. Um, and sugar beets, lots of sugar beets.
You're responsible for the sugar beets.
Uh, so they leave a distinct smell in the neighborhood sometimes, but
So, Sarah, I'd love to begin with your story, if you're willing to share a little bit about what led you into um, this like community-based healing work. How did you end up here?
oh, um, you know, honestly, I don't know. I originally went to school to go into biochem at one point, and then it switched to veterinary medicine. And the real part, I guess that life, how your like personal life also like falls into your career life eventually at some capacity. Um, while I was going to school, I was trying to work full time, and I had this amazing. I was very, very pushed. I came from a family of physicians, I mean, doctors, so my story is a little different in that way. Um, and uh, and I just started drinking a lot of caffeine because you got to make those deadlines, right, for your papers. And I couldn't make the papers enough and get my work in as well as working full time. started trying to use like medications to keep myself going. And then I had a roommate that introduced me to something that would make you run for days at a time. And I eventually like took everything away from me.
Mhm.
Uh, I am a person with lived recovery of 18 years now, with I guess I would say 7 years of floundering, starting when I was 21. But uh, this has always been a calling. I think there's always been this piece to me. I actually ended up in some of the adolescent treatment facilities when I was a teenager, and I had a counselor once coin me the human shield. Like,
Mhm.
because I would always get into fights to defend everybody else. And um and so I eventually went into social work.
Mhm.
I have this really and I think that's really cool about like people who are in recovery. If you sit down and have a conversation with them, and luckily this is my job nowadays, and find out what their stories are about, because like there's such an eclectic experience that needs to be absorbed. Like I feel like every single one of them could probably have a book or an Encyclopedia Britannica of
Yeah.
what got them to where they're at today. Um, so if you look at my career line, it goes from biochem, vet tech, marine mammal rehabilitationist in Alaska to social worker and addictions counselor.
All right. Um, and I see that, especially when you started to move toward the vet tech, there's that thread of helping and wanting to express, that kind of care. Um, at what point did you, so where in that story or where in that timeline, I guess, did Lotus Recovery start to show up as something that was going to unfold?
So, in the height of my career in veterinary medicine, I ended up relapsing. I had 3 years of recovery, and I lost everything in about a month. Lost my car, lost my line of credit, lost my apartment. It's amazing how fast you can go from the top to the bottom. I think a lot of people will share that. And I ended up back in treatment here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Um, with my life partner, somebody I'd been with since I was 15 years old. And we both ended up in recovery together. We beat the odds, both stayed clean. They always tell you no relationships in recovery. Um, and we ended up getting married and had a daughter who was 18 days old. And while we had this child who was in the NICU, my husband relapsed and ended up in a horrible vehicular accident. So my story starts on that day, on Father's Day, when I picked up a new title. I was a person in recovery, and suddenly I was a single mom and I was a widow. And there came all this like calling, this, what do you do with all these emotions? Um, you know, that want to run. I realized at that point I would never been really addicted to drugs or substances. I was I was addicted to running away,
Mm,
you
hmm.
know. And substances had allowed me to run in place. I could still be there and run at the same time. And I had made that choice in our early recovery. I was not going to do that again. It definitely, like, there was a voice in my head that was like, I'm not going to leave this 18-year-old child um, in a hospital. Or really, what I was thinking was, I don't ever want her to grow up and wonder why neither of her parents were around. So after many years, like, I started working in, I went to the treatment facility. I had actually graduated. I started working there as just a tech. Went to school, had walked out of treatment after graduating, and I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but I was like, I'm going to be a licensed addictions counselor and I'm going to open up my own treatment facility. I mean, I think I hear this all the time by like people walking out there like this is their plan, and I really want to iterate like it's not a joke. You can absolutely do it. Just go
Hmm.
for it. Use that persistence that you had finding your fix every day towards one good goal, and anything is achievable. So, um, and I ran into, as I was working in these facilities, like there was a lot of frustrations, and I think some people can relate to this because like we were all abstinence based, but we'd have like the barriers for like treatment. We had to be like, oh, do you have insurance? You
Mm.
know, how are you going to pay? Um, are you still using? When was the last time you used? Oh, you're still using? You're gonna have to go to detox. I think it really boiled down to a frustration where one of my really close friends and I were on the railroad track at the facility we were working at, and we'd had a gentleman who had 6 months clean and had gone to a funeral and relapsed, and they pulled all of his treatment out from underneath him and kicked him out onto the streets. And while we were venting about this and maybe using very heated, probably smoking too many cigarettes at the point, it wasn't healthy, but um, my friend asked, made the statement, he's like, we should open up our own treatment facility. And I was like, yeah, why not? And that's where it started up was we found another 5 individuals who were interested. I connected with a very close friend who had these wild ideas at the point. He had opened up a needle exchange called the Good Neighbor Project, and he had tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if I would be the operations manager for it and help him get this nonprofit up off the ground. And for me, it was really, really crazy. Like I was like, you can't use, like, I can't hand out this stuff. I can't be around these people. Like this is, you know, um, but Jeremy really presented me with this belief. He was like, "You, Sarah, like, would you do anything to make sure that even if he went back out, that he was safe?" Like my husband, he's like, what would you do for another day?" And it all of a sudden clicked with me that like this harm reduction approach was about keeping people safe long enough so that when the day came and they decided that they wanted to find change, that they were still around to do it.
Mm.
And I could hold on to that. That had some, sustenance. Because I was kind of becoming disenchanted with the treatment programming that we had. Seemed like for all the successes, we had a whole lot of, people that were falling through the cracks. They were getting burnt out on the services, and we're supposed to be helping them, not making them feel bad
Right.
about the fact that they have a struggle. Um, so yeah, and that's where the term lotus comes from, is really no mud, no lotus.
Right.
Yeah, not only with the struggles that launched it into being, but like um, I had this very distinct memory when we were coming through all of this because my um, that car in that accident got pulled out of the river, and I remember just all the sludge and everything. But in it, there was this moment of like celebration because there was this new life that had come from our story. And now she's 15 and very, very snarky. Yeah. So, um, but that's kind of where we started. We started in a 2-room office in a tiny little brick building right next to the library. The newspaper really did something. They ended up, I remember when we opened our doors, they decided to put us on the front page paper, and it's pretty conservative around here. And what the notice was is that they were like, it's a treatment facility that lets addicts use. That was like in big bold lettering. And my board almost had a heart attack. There was a lot of explanations, but it was super cool, because it really led to some conversations instead. Like people came out of the woodwork to like come to our facility that would never go anywhere else because we weren't judging them as they were coming in the door. And my favorite conversation when somebody comes to our facility now is like, I'm like, I don't really care. I hope I can, but I'm like, I really don't give a shit what you used or how much you've used. I really just want to know why. If we can
Mm,
get to that why,
mhm,
um, maybe we can work on that and you'll be less inclined to use. Because it was my why. Like my why has always been running, not wanting to deal with life or not wanting to feel. And I decided not to run that time. I I joke around with everybody and tell them it's like I used to relapse because my neighbor's hamster died. I mean, it could be any excuse under the sun. And the day that I had to go up the elevator and make some really, really hard decisions, I didn't run. And it was because of the fellowship and the people that I had made connections with. Um, they were there with me every hour, the whole way through. Um, and they would check and make sure I was sleeping, eating, taking a shower. But there's something really amazing in that community, in that recovery community, that I see a lot of us missing.
mhm. I mean, what a powerful story, and thank you for sharing. So you find yourself with a little office in town, and you've got this publication in the newspaper that maybe isn't the way that you would have preferred to be um, highlighted in the community.
Yeah.
And but like you said, somehow it started to generate conversations. And
Mm.
if you go back to those the kind of the launching of the business, what were some of the things that you had to overcome as kind of the visionary uh, to get it off the ground or to get out of your own way? What did that look like?
Oh. I have learned now, and I think it was that tenacity. Um, the things that got me into trouble when I was in high school. I I think they diagnosed me with something called oppositional defiance disorder at one point.
It's new.
And
That's a new term to me. So
oh, I think it's called actually it should be adolescence is what they should call it. Sorry, I forget.
it
But
was just being
yeah,
weird.
and um but that was a big thing for me was that just being stubborn for once, like were things the thing that my parents had always complained about, like, oh, she's like really hard-headed, and everything. She doesn't take no for an answer. Like that has probably been my greatest strength the whole way through this is just like I just don't if there's a barrier in front of me, I just find and okay, so I have a 5-year-old too, and I was watching Dora the Explorer. And she's like, can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go around it, gotta go through it. And I was like, this is the definition of my life running this business is like this um is just kind of like, it never and when you get through one thing, take a breather because the next thing is just waiting around the door. The next challenge is coming, whether that's funding issues or like, are you growing? Are you expanding? I'm too nice. I've been told by my staff, everybody that I've been told, like I'm definitely a counselor, and and it's really hard to make those hard executive decisions sometimes, the ones that hurt,
Mhm,
or make you question if you're still who you were before a little
mhm.
bit. Um, but it has been, I really honestly, yeah, like for us, one of the things for treatment that we really ran into was the insurance companies. Like once you're like, hooray, we got the license. We finally got our. policy and procedure approved by the state and everything like that. Well, we had one of the biggest insurance companies that we would have to bill through. It took us almost a year to get approved.
Mm.
Kind of hard to live not getting paid for anything and giving out free services for a year. Um, and it honestly, I sometimes kind of reminisce about those days where we had the tiny office. It was like $300 rent. There was no lights. It was in the basement. You know, I mean, life seems now like it was pretty chill back then. But uh, I do remember us fighting with the insurance companies and my business partner at the time, like just getting up and screaming and hitting the wall and then going out to her truck and driving away for like an hour and a half because she'd been arguing with them for so long and had gotten nowhere with them. So I felt like and if you do have a partner, we kind of tag teamed it on that. I was like, okay, you'll go yell at them today and I will go yell at them tomorrow. And at some point they'll get sick of us like arguing with them. And it eventually happened. So
And maybe those are some of those things that, you know, maybe we don't plan for when we're starting an adventure like that. Like, you know that, okay, you got to go through the process with the state, right? You got to get your licensure. You kind of know that part of the deal. But something like, oh, the struggle with the insurance company, it's
mhm,
like you don't realize some of that until you're in it. Like, oh, okay, this is a whole other thing that, requires tackling. And I loved that vision of kind of the tenacity needed to just be willing to go through, right? And we say that it's kind of I don't know if you call it a catchphrase or maybe they would say it's cliche, but the only way out is through. And we find that in recovery, right? This is common. Like you're not going to find yourself on the other side without going through the process.
right. Right. And I mean, and it challenges you. And I think also, and my apologies, I gotta find a charger here real quick.
Oh yeah, take care of your power. Go for it.
Yeah. I was like, I don't wanna all of a sudden. Pew. Um, but I think it was really eye-opening. Now I realize that like I had a classmate when I was in school. I worked with him for a long time and like, we would be there in social work class and we'd be like, yeah, we're gonna do this and we're gonna feed everybody and we're gonna, you know, house everyone and we want, we had all these like great aspirations on how we were gonna change the world and everything. And then he would just sit there and he's like, how are we gonna bill for it? And it's just like such a like Debbie Downer. I was like, that's not a billable service. And he's like, how are you gonna, so he's always like being very realistic and busting our bubble. And then we started on this venture and I catch myself like that now. It's like, okay, we want to do all the amazing things and we want to save the world, but it takes funding and consistent, reliable funding and the resources. Um, And so I don't know if anybody else can relate, like when you take off, because we've done this a couple times in the 8 years we've been, open. It's like you can feel yourself like, okay, we got to build now, we've got to expand. And I feel myself like buckling up and like getting ready for it a little bit, maybe like holding on to the roller coaster wheel bar, because I'm like, yeah, yeah, what are we? This is going to be amazing and painful. Like because there's always these complexities that come with it and you can always accidentally I've done this too where you grow too fast and then you end up realizing you have to make some really hard decisions because you grew too fast,
Mhm.
whether that's like taking on too many stuff or thinking you're going to get funding. We just went through that with a housing funding. I applied for it in April and I got the notification that we were approved at the end of November, finally. So I was like, yay, but even a bigger, like now I feel like I'm having Christmas because they told me I can back bill all the way from April. So I
Hey,
was like, I mean, so I was like, hey, Merry Christmas. Like so that's another thing I don't know. Like there've been so many times where we've gotten to that point where we thought we were gonna break or we were gonna crash and burn or give up or walk away, kind of like my partner in the truck. And and then like all the dominoes start falling. Like I mean everything lines up. Like all of a sudden we get our nonprofit 501(c)(3) letter and we get our approval for insurance. Like they just like end up you have to, and I think that that comes from recovery, like we were talking about, like with recovery and that belief of whatever it is, the ether, the energy, the higher power, whatever, like it works in your favor. You just have a little bit of faith that you need to hold on, and maybe until you feel like you're going to lose your mind for a second. So, um, but it will, I don't know. I just feel like every time we've been at that point, magic happens right after you get past that.
I love that, and I think it speaks to when you're on your kind of aligned mission that, the world or the universe, whatever that is, however you talk about it, shows up.
Yeah.
In that moment where you're like, oh man, how are we going to take care of that bill? And somehow, you look back and you're like, well, I've had five or six of those moments. Somehow it keeps happening, right? And
Right.
so you've got 8 years now under your belt with Lotus. Um, Give us an overview of what it looks like today. What do your programs look like? What does it look like to be providing your services to the community? What's Lotus grown to?
Oh, wow. Um, So I think this like really relates to like the differences in the seven founders. And I'm the only one that's left out of the seven that's still involved. Um, but half of them were providers and half of us were people in recovery. Um, two of us worked in housing, specifically, and I think we went with treatment, outpatient treatment, because that was where we knew we could find some funding, really reliable funding in the beginning, but it was also their gig and they knew it. I felt like at that point they were more professional and knew what they were doing, kind of. Um, I was just some street kid, that's what I tell my people now is like, I'm still just a young and dumb street kid. Like, um, so I don't know if I know much. And, but I had always had this vision of a recovery village. I was
Hmm.
like, we need it all. We don't need just the treatment. The treatment will get you clean, That's great, but it won't keep you clean and it won't keep you, healthy or well or anything like that because I had had that life experience with that loss and everything. And it wasn't treatment that saved me that day. It was these three women that showed up at the hospital room, and said, "We got you." Because I was not only like going through all these emotions, I was terrified because I don't know how to raise a kid. Like I had no idea. I was like, great, I could have. Maybe I had raised orphan otters. I was trying to put some similarities to it. So I needed some moms. But like that was the really cool thing was like that we had all these like plans. I was like, I want tiny home villages. We need to all live in a community. We need to show the world that we are the solution. I was so sick and tired of people talking about us as the problem. Like all they want to do is talk about the problem. And I was like, the solution's right here in our hands. Just give us a shot, you know? Um, and that's kind of what you see now. It's been I'm just I'm here for the ride. I mean, I might have some guiding light on it, what we're doing, but like today we have outpatient treatment and we're serving like 68 individuals, I think was the last census I did. And you see them in our building all day milling around. We took them fishing. They've gone camping. It's not treatment like your traditional treatment. It's like, what would I like to fulfill my day? I mean, not only is coping skills, because there's nothing like sitting there and listening to Cog for 10 hours. Um, but we've got them, we have them cooking, running. take them to the colleges, do tours around the colleges. Just like all kinds of varieties of things. But we also opened up the rec. That was a big piece that happened about 5 years ago. So it's a drop-in recovery service center. We have peer supports there. We do all kinds of events. Like I mentioned, well, we have an upcoming event that I really enjoy, but we needed people in our community in this Fargo Moorhead area. It's so cool. Like we have something really special here. There's such a large, not only large, but di diverse community of people in recovery, and they're so proud of it.
Hmm.
For a little podunk Fargo Moorhead, like it's teeming with I run a living clean in the FM scene and we have over 1,000 members.
Wow.
So it's really awesome to watch everybody kind of lean into each other if they need something. Um, but we had a Friendsgiving event here for like Thanksgiving and the holidays, and we ended up with like 16 turkeys and 16 hams, and we served over 300 people.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it was so cool. And we were picking up people from the streets. My peer support was picking up people from the streets, and the wild thing is we got there and like the people that she'd invited from the streets were all family members and they hadn't seen each other in like years. And it was the first family and they were all homeless. It was the first family gathering they'd had in like almost half a decade.
Wow.
So um So those are that's the magic that happens at the rec a lot. We have this Frostable event that we're going to be doing um called Beyond the Wonderland. It's a recovery rave because I I think most people are worried about getting bored. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get clean. This is gonna be boring. Or I'm not gonna be going to the bars. This is what do I do on my Friday nights? And we really want to prove to everyone that I went to one of the fellowship restaurants that we go to a lot, and I remember the manager saying, he's like, I don't know which one's worse or which one's more rowdy. The people who are still actively you drinking or the people who aren't. And I took an offense for a second. I mean, I think we all did. But we had to like also we're high on life, right?
Right.
It's a second chance. And so the rec is located in the one of the roughest neighborhoods in our community. It's in Ronke Park, and it has the highest overdose rate, one of the highest crime rates,
Hmm.
and then we opened up Solid Ground, which is our boarding and lodging, and I have 24 guys right now. They're coming from the jails, they're coming from prisons, they're coming from residential treatment facilities. Because the thing is, we need a home too, right? And we use the model from the Fairweather model. Um, they own these houses and they run like a fraternity. They
Oh,
take care
okay.
of each other.
Hmm.
We have staff here too. It's not like a sober home. There is staff here, and we have a housing case manager. And that they housing case manager really helps them in getting to their apartments. But they move into because the only place that'll rent to them is in Romkey Park. We have we have about 60, 70 individuals in this community, in this neighborhood. And when we moved the rec into this space, I don't know what to say. Like they had one NA meeting, and I don't know if maybe I should not say, but like there was one recovery community meeting that decided to move over there, and everybody was outside smoking their cigarettes, being loud. And you saw all the neighbors all of a sudden realize as they were walking their dogs or doing things outside what was going on, and they went into their houses and dropped off the dog or put their things away, and then they showed up at the meeting.
Hmm.
And this is the first night, and at the end of the meeting they did their circling up outside in the parking lot, and there was probably about 70 individuals in the parking lot in this. I mean, I lived here in the ghetto hugging each other and talking about gratitude.
Wow.
So
That's
Um,
community impact.
yeah, we get along with the cops around here like us, um, which is really interesting because when we first moved in here into the houses, we had a really bad bump in with them. Um, when there was an overdose, they really were kind of, confrontational in the situation. But now, like, if there's a situation in the neighborhood, I can drive by. And the other day, like, there was a dispute going on, and one of the guys who was involved, all of a sudden, he's like, "That's my counselor." And so all of a sudden, like, pulled over and I walked up and I was like, "How can I help, man?" And everything. And like, went and talked to him. Girlfriend went to the treatment facility that's 4 blocks away to go, get things handled. And that, that's the big focus that the people that were in with lived experience in recovery when we were founders meeting in the basement, we were talking about like how do we make this, how do we build a home? How do we build a village? Where do we call the space that we can finally claim as our own? And most people don't want to live in Romkey Park, except us.
Mhm.
And I told the lady that I work because on their Clay County Drug Court. I was like, we're taking Romkey back, and that's been the whole goal is to prove if we can prove that we can fix Romkey Park, there's no stopping us on what else we can, this community, not me, I mean, or Lotus or Rec or Solid Ground. We just are tools for what this population, these people can do. And it's been just, I'm really grateful for being a part of that, being there for the ride.
Yeah, amazing. And big work too, to go in and have that kind of impact on a community and everything that it takes to get there is no small feat. Um, are there any parts of your, the, yeah, are there any parts of the running of the business that you guys still find a struggle with that is like, oh man, this hurdle, or I know you kind of mentioned funding is one of them, right? But is there anything that you consistently have to problem solve for or find workarounds for in the business today?
Yeah, well, I mean, just the what's going on right now. The environment's really shaky. Uh, I had convinced myself that I wasn't going to listen to the news anymore because it wasn't good for my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I checked out for about 3 weeks. And then I went to a coalition meeting and found out that our grant had been canceled, like terminated.
Mm.
All of a sudden, like everybody was just all in an uproar and everything. And so I've allotted myself to 30 minutes of the news every day now just to keep a pulse on what's going on.
Sure.
Uh, you know, uh, I mean, that's been really shaky. Or just, oh, I like in this area, and I don't know if I'm seeing this nationally, but it makes my heart heavy. Across the river, their leadership is really going after the harm reduction center. They're, the language that they're using now, the things they're saying, there's such a heavy negativity towards it and the approach now. And I'm like, we can't be going backwards. Like we cannot start hitting reverse and going back to what wasn't working 30 years ago.
Right.
It's it wasn't working then. That was part of my struggle with it back then was is like a 10% success rate is not acceptable when it's the people I love. And I won't swallow it. So what are we going to do differently? Other challenges, the people who work in this field usually are in recovery, and we have a tendency not to take care of ourselves while we're on the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, So always having to keep a pulse on everyone, including myself. I was like, we can't go into the trap house. Like, we just can't. It's not safe. Like, I know you want to pull them out. We gotta at least have them walk out of the house, please. You know, those kind of reminding ourselves about boundaries. Um, but yeah, business wise, it's been the biggest challenge is having enough staff to do the work we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that relates back to that funding. If we had enough funding, um, I'm not good at asking for help, never have been. You can ask my friends. I'll figure out a way to generate it. I'll write a grant. We'll work hard, but we're not, even though we're a nonprofit, we have a really hard time getting that kind of support. So, um, I don't know, maybe it's a part of that humility that we got ingrained to us while we were getting, or I was getting clean. Like, it just kind of has made it hard to ask. But I was also that girl in treatment who had the sign on her, on a little piece of string that said, if I look like I need help, ask me. Bad, bad week.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
Does your funding primarily come from grants? Does it come from payments from insurance or
ours is primarily billable.
yeah?
Like we've leaned hard. Oh, I don't know how, um, I have learned kind of the hard way now with grants, especially big grants. Like they just need to be the icing on the cake for self-sustainability. Like they find your like meat and potatoes, whatever that is, the funding. So usually billable services is probably 90% of our funding.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps us limited though. Like we can't um I mean ultimately my big dream would be to build 50 acres worth of farmland of tiny homes. Just put everybody out there. Let's have an auto shop, hair salon, library, and kumbaya every night, bonfires, treatment, I'll have it all there because in our area specifically, uh, it right now I think is, or well, tomorrow it's going to be 20 below.
Poof.
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, that's not even including the windshield. Your face hurts here and people freeze to death.
Mm-hmm.
And when your services are like halfway across town and you don't have a vehicle, you're not going to get connected with the things you need.
Right.
So, and and so that's what happens to a lot of it is like we're so spread out. We need to have everything in one spot, and it doesn't have to be this all by the same agency. Um,
You're happy to do partnerships.
oh, of course. Well, I think that's yeah. I don't know why nonprofits are really competitive.
Mm.
Like in some ways, like I think we talk about a lot of collaboration, but then we get kind of scared that somebody's going to dip into our pot,
Mm-hmm.
and I really recognize that I can't. I don't know anything about. Uh, well, I mean, I don't know enough to say I could do anything with somebody who has a TBI, you know, or I don't know enough about like education, getting into school and what that takes. These are things where it's like find the people who are good at it and invite them in, in for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We're better together, I like to say.
yeah, absolutely. And these people need us all. It takes a village.
Yeah. I really like the vision of a piece of land where all of that gets to exist out there, and you know, it used to be that way, where where, the village came around the fire every night and we used to share the stories, and that was the place to get to unpack or unload whatever happened during the day. And those gathering spaces are hard to find for people. And I think it's part of why we're in a loneliness epidemic,
Hmm.
and there then we have that feeling of loneliness. So people might use to you know kind of mask that feeling of loneliness, and then the result is more disconnection.
Right.
And so one of the things I say often, and it's on my the podcast page, is community is the medicine.
Hmm.
We are the medicine that we need, and we have to be willing to come together, to make it available for one another.
Um, no, it's a, and that like that TED Talk with Johann Hari. I mean, I bought that like so it's been um just I mean, like in the media, like you always hear like it's like we talk about like substance use, mental health, homelessness, um, suicide rates, violence, and everything that's going on. And I'm just like, these are all, we talk about them like they're individual problems. And all I see, and maybe this is because I have some um, have worked, with animals and everything, is like human beings are social species. We're supposed to be communicative. Like we're supposed to be in community settings and communal relationships. And unfortunately, like this sense of capitalism and individualized, all these things that were promoted, that you need to be independent and strong, um, all these issues, they're just symptoms of a much bigger problem.
Hmm.
And we really need to get to the heart of it. That makes sense.
Hmm.
And and just like most medicines, they're actually, derivatives from the illness or the virus or the whatever, I, you know, I see the medicine in the people that are struggling with it. Like I remember when people would say in the rooms, like, I'm a grateful addict. And I was like, oh my God, are you crazy? Like, what are you grateful for? It just seems so mind-boggling. Like, because I was pretty rough when I came in. Um, but it's the ultimate leveler. It does not care what color you are. It does not care where you came from, does not care what your background is.
No.
You know, I think one of my biggest reasons why I would relapse is because I thought I was too smart for it. Like I would smart myself into my next use.
Mm.
I was like, oh, I got it this time. Got on the dean's list. I'm smart enough. I got this beat. Or something. I mean, really just and but it was when you were in those hours of darkness, it was those people that came and reached out for you. And um I have advocated for it so many times. I have seen to change, challenge that language. And I don't know if you hear this yourself, like just some of the things that they're saying right now. And or people's comments on Facebook. What happened where we felt so comfortable to be so cruel?
Hmm.
Um, but um I have seen drug dealers cut somebody off because they know they're out of control and they have things they need to do. I've seen people in active use try to save somebody else and get them into treatment. That piece of who we are is still there, even when we can't save ourselves. And isn't that what we need to like remember is that the humanity is there?
Right.
So, um, I feel more comfortable with, I always have, with people who are hard up and they're still real. So, and my daughter's fondest memories was hanging out with a bunch of guys at a men's shelter.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, because they took care of her. Nobody was ever gonna hurt her, you know. Um, and and she still runs into them around the, when she's going to school or something like that. Like she'll run into them, and she doesn't see. Um, this is where you know you've done something right when your kids become a, you can see that they're good people, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
And she's like, Mom, they're not bad people. They just make bad choices.
yeah,
Um, so we need a lot more of that right now.
definitely. Yeah, and the world is a complicated place, and if there's somebody out there that's got a piece of information that can help me make a better choice, that could make all the difference for somebody.
Yeah.
You know. Um,
Um,
I really appreciate you sharing your story and sharing about Lotus with us, and the work that you're doing up there in the freezing cold. It's needed everywhere, not just in the tropics, man. I've chosen warm environments, but like you said, addiction doesn't care if you're warm or cold or how much money you have or what background you come from. It can be anywhere.
yeah. And and I think that journey of recovery, like because we're all starting at ground zero, we're so accepting of just it makes you blind to all those like in those differences that people hold on to.
Hmm.
It's like, man, I'm just trying to stay alive, you know, and I think sometimes, but it's really like and more of it's like I think people talk about it as like I don't know if I've done more stuff than you have or like worse things that I need to make amends for kind of thing. But I just everybody it kind of gives us that level ground.
Yeah, it's a leveler. You said that. I liked how you said that earlier. Was it brings everybody to that same place, and is humility too. That the process of having to be like, wow, okay, like I have to figure some things out is a really humbling process, and forever thankful that there's organizations like Lotus Recovery to be there and carry people and provide that place when it's needed.
Mm. Um, well, and there's anybody who needs, I guess if I can leave like a message, and I was going to, but um, anybody who's out there that's struggling, like it doesn't matter if it's halfway across the country, they're welcome to reach out and share a hot cup of tea or coffee, yeah, anytime, you know. Uh,
What's the
as we
best way
say,
for people to get in touch with you?
I mean, hit us up on Facebook. It's a pretty good way to get a hold of us, or you call the center, or just walk in. We're usually serving lunch, like so. Uh, but one of the things that makes I really appreciate about what we do differently is we realize that getting to us is really hard, so we will find you if you need us.
Hmm.
So, and we'll go to the Denny's over here and get a cup of coffee or something like that. Or, even if it's not the person who themselves, maybe it's a mom. I've had phone calls where it's a mom who just needs somebody to talk to. because they can't talk to the rest of their family anymore. That's a really lonely spot to be too.
Right.
So, but yay, moms. Like, I don't know what I'd do without my mom. She dropped me off at
Same.
the I she dropped me off at the treatment facility 3 times that day to make sure I got in the door. Glad she tried the last third time.
Yeah, that's I think there's something really beautiful in that too, because um, sometimes we want to be like, oh man, what's the point? But that third time makes the difference, or maybe it's the fourth time or the fifth time, but um, having the opportunity for it to be that time that makes a difference is what we need.
Right. And I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as a lost cause.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, you're
and
still breathing.
right. And absolutely just keep coming back, right? I mean, I guess that's what and try not to mix it too much into my professional role, but it's just keep coming back. Um, it'll work. It'll click at some point.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking some time having this conversation with me. Really sweet conversation, and I look forward to getting to see what Lotus Recovery grows into, and I know that you're already having a great impact with your local community there, and I'm sure that that will continue. So thank you for that service.
Thanks. Thank you for the time. I really, appreciate having the opportunity to share about it. And just to give you an idea of like how cold it is here, this is my hat.
Got
Man.
it.
So,
Yeah. Um, well, stay warm and find a good cup of hot chocolate and
oh,
thank you again.
thanks, man. You take care.
And
You
thank you
have a
to
happy holidays.
everybody. Likewise, you as well. And thank you to everybody who's tuning in. This has been another episode of the Conscious Solutions Podcast. Each episode reminds us that conscious leadership requires both heart and systems that can support it. If today's conversation resonated with you, please share it forward. I'm Brandon Barklay. Stay grounded, stay curious, and keep building with heart. So we'll end the episode there. Again, thank you for the time. Um, and yeah, I've got a there's a guy that I know in Tennessee who developed or is he in Kentucky? He's either in Kentucky or Tennessee, but he developed a recovery treatment model called trait-based transformation.
Okay.
I really like it, um, but I want to send you his a little information, send you his website and stuff.
Okay.
And great guy. Really like the organization, and he's been developing some tools, and he got his PhD developing his program, and they're finding great success with it.
Well, I think that's interesting. So I left all of my like strategic planning and everything for the Lotus Center at the homeless shelter I was working at before, where I ended up being the interim ED
Hmm.
transitioning. All of a sudden, I have this guy show up at my office one day, and he's like, "I'm looking for a job." I was like, "That's cool." And he's like, "Wow, all of all your paperwork and everything like that is still at Dorothy Day House." Like they hadn't cleared my computer or anything when I was at school, like coming up with all these ideas and everything. And apparently, this employee of mine had gotten a peek into all the foundational work and everything, like that had started like 5 years before he'd come and asked for a job. It
Hmm.
was like the most bizarre like introduction. I was like, "What did you know? What did I put down?" It'd be interesting to see what did I write back at
Right,
that time.
right.
Like it probably sounded complete hogwash. You know, but I think that that's like I was talking about before. Um, Nobody had heard about harm reduction like in the treatment model. They didn't know what it would look like. I still get into arguments with some of the treatment facilities around here. Because they're like, oh, well, medical marijuana. I was like, it's better than being on barbiturates. You cannot argue with
Absolutely.
me.
No.
You know,
Yeah, no,
uh,
there's a lot of stuck mentality still in that realm, and that's one of the things that I really liked about his model. It's not fear-based, it's strength-based.
right.
He has a the treatment model is I think wonderful, and he developed he used the kind of the same base, but developed a prevention model to go into
Hmm.
schools and go into like middle schools, like the DARE
Nice.
program, but to replace the DARE program.
Not really. I tried to talk to our high schools about doing harm reduction in the schools and I got hung up on. And maybe it was the way I approached it. I was like, you can't deny that there's not use going on in the schools. And he's like, you
Oh, but
know,
they don't know no school wants to admit that though, like and it's but they're cutting themselves off from an opportunity.
right, right. And I mean, the scary thing is like, wouldn't it be better and wouldn't it be more responsible of us to just be like, hey, I know you're using. Why don't we talk about how to do it safely and maybe like not like go off the deep end? I wish somebody had done that for me. Like,
Totally. I mean, it could have because I started using when I was 17 and
okay.
I was a junior and yeah, there was nothing like that.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, like or like I mean having these conversations where it's so for my practicum it was supposed to be with addressing homeless youth, like the unaccompanied homeless youth, and nobody knows that they're around. And I was like, I was a rail hopper. I mean, at
Mm.
14, I was like, I had been to Seattle and my mom had no idea.
Wow.
Like, so not the safest thing. I would hope my kids would never do that to me, but like just the size of that population of kids who don't have any adults keeping an eye on them, you know, and they just kind of disappear into the mix, but like clearly active use too, like a lot of heavy use.
Right.
So and so just walk, and I think that was one of the biggest barriers for me for treatment was like, and we run into it now is like here's one of the things we're working on is trying to find foster care for dogs
Mm.
because we have all these people who need to get into treatment, residential treatment or outpatient or they're homeless and they have dogs and people are just like,
Yeah.
well, you're a bad owner. Like you should just give it up for adoption. And I don't think they're as that animal and that relationship they have. You can't, that is the only connection they have with another soul.
Right.
Like, do not threaten that to get, so they can get help. Um, um, because yeah, I have one young girl right now. She's supposed to be in one of the correctional halfway houses and everything, and her dog, she's like, I gotta get my dog out. My dog's squatting. It's like she's not squatting, the dog's squatting at her old apartment. She's like, who's
Right.
ever heard of a squatting dog? And I was like, well, I mean, dogs squat a lot, but whatever. You know, so uh there's yeah, no, I would love to connect with anybody who's got, is tackling things that nobody else has really maybe addressed yet, or they're finding new ways and approaches. Because, like I said before, I'm done doing the run-of-the-mill 28-day. It's we need to radically accept it's not working, or it worked for 10%, but it doesn't work for everybody.
Right. No. Yeah, I'll send you some info and I'll introduce you to Jason. Dr. Roop is what I call him.
Oh, okay.
But his name's Jason. But I'll introduce you. The for the episode, it'll be a few weeks, probably with Christmas Eve, through at least, before we get the episode out. My video guy's a little behind right now, and but I'll send it to you. You'll get a file so that you can do with it whatever you want. We usually send like a short or two so that it's in there's like a little snippet that's prepared for social media if you do that thing,
Hmm.
and then we'll make sure that we have, like you mentioned, your Facebook, so I'll make sure that we link your Facebook and your website, to the
Okay.
posting of the episode.
All right. Well, thank you. Is there any way I can return like this favor or experience? Like it's, I don't know if there's, even if it's just having a resource and you find somebody who needs up in the Minnesota area in the cold, somebody reaches out and you're like, I don't know. But um
Yeah, knowing
I
you're available. I mean, you did me the service of being willing to come and have a conversation with some guy you never met. So I figure that you've already made your payment.
okay. I mean, well, it has
So
been a great pleasure to meet you.
yeah,
And
likewise, Sarah.
so and I hope you have a happy holidays.
Yes, thank you. You too. Keep those mittens and that hat close by, and we'll be in touch on the emails.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Conscious Solutions podcast and for being part of a movement that supports the people who support the people. If today's conversation inspired you, share it forward, follow the show, and stay connected for upcoming episodes. And if you're a founder, a practitioner, or an organization doing meaningful work in the healing or wellness space, or you're looking for support in building systems that help your mission grow, reach out. I'd love to hear your story and explore what's possible. Until next time, stay curious and keep building with heart.